like, hey everybody, welcome back to Home Build Happiness.
Hi.
Your favorite fellers, Ron and Laren here. So we're in the land of Barberville, and we've taken a step back in time. This time we're at the Barberville Pioneer Settlement. So what this is actually a installation. It's a non-profit that was started in 1976 by a group of teachers. Now this is basically a pioneer town. With very few exceptions, all the buildings featured are going to be completely period correct, authentic, working buildings from the 19th century. This location does a lot of tours. They do field trips for youth groups, churches, schools. When I was a kid, some 20
some odd years ago,
I don't even want to admit it, 28 years ago, about 28 years ago, I actually came here on a field trip, and I was able to make butter. I shook it in a little jar and I made butter right here on site. So this is the first time I've been back. And as always, if you're viewing this and you like the content, please consider giving us a thumbs up, a subscribe, and a comment down below. It lets us know we're doing the right thing. And also, if you click the notifications tab, it's going to keep you up to date when we come to places like this. It'll notify you, and you can pretty much
travel along with us.
Yeah, you can travel right in step. We're going to take you through everything, and we hope you enjoy taking a walk back through time with us.
Come along.
First stop on our tour of the Pioneer Settlement is going to be right here at the Astor Bridge Tender's House. The Astor Bridge Tender's House was built in 1926 and is actually one of the last existing bridge tenders homes in Florida. The house served as the home for men and their families that operated the bridge's swing span to allow for river traffic along the St. Johns River to pass. Now this house was not built here. It was actually moved here in 1980. Actually in the early 1980s. A lot actually had to happen to get this house here. So it made headlines back in the day. And when you come to the settlement, this is actually where you will come to check in. This is also where you'll come to pay upon arrival. Whoa, you found the Geico gecko?
Yeah.
Where's he at?
You climb up the side of it. It was a little green gecko.
See, if you need your boater's insurance, you get your Geico gecko. This is the Pastime Tour boat. This wooden touring boat was built in 1910 in a shipyard near Green Cove Springs, Florida. It served for many years bringing tourists up and down the St. Johns River. And it looks like it's had a life. It's had a life. Let's go tour it. One time, you could pay to probably travel this boat from Riverside across to San Marco in Jacksonville. Possibly the spot where the Buckman Bridge currently is. You could have crossed to St. John's there. To the barn. And when you leave the tour boat, you're going to go down towards a post and beam barn. Now this is a recreated barn, but the cool thing about it is historically accurate, as all the supporting frame members are connected solely with wooden pegs, mortises, and pinions. The timbers were milled on site and with the help of volunteers and the Eckerd Youth Camp. This barn was raised in just one weekend in 1986. And we're gonna go in by this other side of it. Alright, and this is how you'd wash your clothes some 150 years ago. I believe that would be your container for milk. Got a cauldron right there. Wood burning stove. Oh. I'm gonna leave y'all to figure out what this guy right here is. I'll give you a hint with these jugs down here. Just a really great way to see some of Florida's real history, and just history in general, how people used to live. Kind of what your life would be like. Then as you exit out this direction, and here's the cane grinder and boiler. Early settlers used sugarcane, especially in Florida, to process the fall of the year supply of sugar and syrup. And a lot of that was actually molasses, because it was a lot easier to make. The cane was fed into the grinder, and the internal rollers would squeeze the juice out of the stalks. The juice was caught in barrels, and those barrels would generally sit right down here where our friend the lizard is. And once that juice was brought out of the sugar cane, it would come right over here where Laren's standing. And this is where a boiler was operated. And the ratio was 10-to-1, so for every 10 gallons of juice that you got out of the cane, you were able to get about a gallon of syrup. And just little added information, the Barberville Pioneer Settlement, they actually hold a cane boil during the annual Fall Country Jamboree right here on site. So it looks like if you come at the right time of year, you can see that and that get put to use. I was gonna say Aflac. We got a donkey. Looks like what, a goat over there coming toward us. Oh, I'm gonna head on to the chickens. Then we're trucking on down, folks, to the peacock aviary. Now that's a beautiful sight right there, especially when they spread their feathers. Now, while peacocks are not common, they're wonderful watchbirds, raising an alarm to any unknown noise. They also hate rattlesnakes, and they'll kill any that come in your yard. So they make a great theft deterrent if you're not a fan of the old nope rope. Now the next on our list here, we're gonna head on down to Ellis's Garden, which is named in honor of longtime settlement gardener Ellis Price. They have some seasonal crops. Let's go check it out. Right here we're looking at the Lewis log cabin. Now this log cabin is the only building at the settlement not original to Florida. It was built by Mr. Jim Lewis in 1875 in southern Georgia. In 1992, his descendants purchased the cabin and sponsored its relocation and reconstruction. It is said that this is the perfect example of Cracker vernacular architecture. Built up off the ground and having a steeply pitched roof allows air movement through the structure. There is no center ridgepole. Originally, the wide porches would have encompassed 3 sides of the cabin to shade it from the hot sun. One gable end was closed off for a storeroom, and it's been repurposed as a kitchen. The original kitchen in this cabin was a separate building that would have been located behind the cabin. And then up top you'll see a ladder that leads up to the loft. You'd have your well right here for water, as well as a little cauldron for you to cook. You got a location here for board splitting, because you know, feller needs wood. And depending on what your resources looked like, instead of having a cabin, you may have just had a small home like this. More of a shack, or like a one bedroom cabin. Got a spot for water right here. You just have your rocking chair and a bed. You'd usually have some storage up there. And then all those cracks in the wood, you'd fill those in with pine tar, pitch. Got a little lantern set up there. And then you come to the quarters house. This home was built in 1920. It was actually moved from New Smyrna Beach in 1997. The shotgun style is indicative of the homes built to quarter workers in the naval stores industry, which was turpentine. The structures were very cheaply built, and occupants frequently papered their walls with cardboard and newspapers to insulate the interior. And you can see that paper insulation on the walls. In the back you got a small kitchen with a wood burning stove. Having the kitchen detached was just a great way to keep the heat separate from the living area. Got a small children's bed. Next stop you'll find in town is going to be the firehouse. Now this particular firehouse building was a blacksmith shop, and it was built in 1900. Now when I was 1 year old, this structure was repurposed as a firehouse. It contains firefighting memorabilia in it, as well as 2 fire engines. Let's take a peek. And one thing I'm noticing here on this engine is this shaft. It looks like it comes off the crankshaft snout. And I almost wonder if that's what they used to power some sort of a pump. I doubt that's how this unit started, but possibly. Got a couple old style ratcheting jacks. Next thing on our list is going to be the turpentine still. Come right back behind you here. The center of the turpentine camps, the still was used to process pine resin into turpentine and rosin. This still is the only commercially operated still open to the public in Florida. The Tomoka Land Company built the still in 1924 near Daytona Beach. Next stop brings us to the blacksmith shop, also known as a smithy. This particular shop was built in 1987 with the help of the Florida Artist Blacksmith Association. It houses a fully equipped blacksmith shop and continues to serve as the meeting ground for the association. Most first Saturdays, you will find members gathering here for the monthly meeting and to work their projects on the forges. The steam-powered line drive assembly came from the farrier's shop at the Spring Garden Ranch Equestrian Training Facility. As you can see, this equipment, it's been recently maintained. It's not in disrepair. And back on pioneer settlements, in almost every farm, you'll find some form of a workshop where you'll see some of these implements. That's the steam-powered line drive assembly right there. That tank's going to hold water as well as burn wood on the bottom side. After the railroad came through the area in 1885, the post office was built to accept mail for the community, and it was donated and moved on to the settlement in 1996. A trip to the church. And this is the Midway Methodist Church. Named Midway because Barberville was halfway between Jacksonville and Tampa on the Methodist minister circuit. The church was constructed in 1890. It served the community until 1964 and was donated to the settlement by the DeLand district of the United Methodist Church. Central heat and air were installed by Dale Barnhart in memory of his wife Evelyn. Theirs was the first wedding performed in this very church after its relocation. The church is available to rent for weddings and other events to this day. And then we have somebody, a church parishioner. Her name is Laren.
Yes.
Do not know.
Church has had central heat and air installed. Installed by these folks here. Built on site in the style of the 1880s, the print shop houses letterpresses dating from the 1880s all the way to the 1940s. All the presses, the iron paper cutter, and the line perforator are manually operated. Type must be hand set. The oldest press is the Chandler and Price letterpress, which was manufactured in 1885. Now this structure, the Wheelwright Shop and Carriage Barn, was built in 2000 to house the Wheelwright Shop and to protect the vintage carriages and wagons collection. Wheelwrights were important for making wheels and wagon implements. Every turpentine camp employed wheelwrights to ensure the wagons needed to transport the resin. Turpentine and rosin were kept in tip-top shape. So imagine something very similar to like an auto mechanic, but for your carriages. And next, we're on to the Woodwright Shop. Built in 1993, the structure is a woodworking shop in Cooper's Corner. All the equipment must be manually operated. Pioneer families used many of the carpentry tools on display here. Coopers were essential for the turpentine industry, responsible for producing the hundreds of barrels required for transporting the industry's products. And right here we have the Pearson Railroad Depot and Caboose. When the Jacksonville, Tampa, and Key West railroads were built through the area, many towns established railroad stations. The Pearson Depot was built in the same year as the railroad. It served this agricultural community for nearly 100 years. In 1982, it was moved here to the settlement, donated by the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. The caboose that you'll see in back was donated 1 year later.
The first ever Morse code sent by inventor Samuel Morse, May 24th, 1844.
Here we are at the country store, H.L. Wynn's commissary. Get us a pack of Pall Malls or Lucky Strikes, or maybe Philip Morris. This 1900s building served as a general and commissary store to a turpentine operation in Blacksburg, just north of Pearson. It was moved to the settlement in 1984, where it serves as the country store and gift shop. When the building was being moved, a piece of the original script used to purchase goods at the store was discovered in the floorboards. The store can be opened upon request. It looks like you'd tie your horse up right there. So last but not least on our journey through time is going to land us right here at the Barberville Central High School, the centerpiece of the settlement here. It was listed as a National Register for Historic Places in 2002. The school was built in 1919 to accommodate students grades 1 through 12. It was the only school in the area to offer college preparatory classes. The building served as a high school until 1940 and as an elementary school until 1969. In 1976, the Barberville Pioneer Settlement reopened the high school as a museum. It now showcases an old-fashioned classroom, a weaver's room, candle room, and kitchen. The former auditorium houses a spinning and fiber display. The auditorium is currently used on Friday evenings for square dancing and is available for a rental fee to the public for meetings, receptions, and other gatherings. So folks, little tidbit here. They held the square dance last night while we were camping on site. I don't know what they square danced to, folks, but
It was cool.
we're up yonder over there, and I was hearing some bass coming from this thing, and I don't know what square dance music had bass, but they knew how to boogie. Fun fact, this was, I believe, the first structure that was placed here when this settlement opened, and it was leased from the school board until the early 2000s, I believe. Let's check it out. So everybody, that's going to sum up our stay at the Barberville Pioneer Settlement. Listen, if you think that you've seen it all because you watched this video, please understand that I've taken about 4.5 hours of touring that we did at this place, and I've condensed it into a little bit over 30 minutes, and honestly I've got a lot more that I just couldn't fit into it. There's so much history right there, there's so much to learn, and if you're an RVer and you're coming through the area and you are a Harvest Host member, as of the taping of this video, they'll welcome you as a guest. And you can see more about Harvest Host right here. Go ahead and type that link in, you can check that out. And listen, if you're a youth pastor or you have a church group, a school, a youth group of any kind, and you would like to check this place out with your group, I would highly recommend giving Eric a call. That was our contact at the Pioneer Settlement. Give him a call. Set that up. You know, it's people like you and I going to places like this that keeps this history rich. It keeps it available to us, and it helps keep these folks on the map. They are a non-profit organization, and they've been around since 1976. They really do a lot to keep this place in tip-top condition, considering the age of a lot of these structures. And if you come there with a group, they even give tours as well. Thank you again. I'm sorry for the long video, but again, it's just a drop in the bucket to what that has to offer. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. We'll see you next time. Alright, rewind. Did I even mention to you guys that if you come through Barberville, there's also a yard art emporium? They have probably more than 10 or 20,000 different yard art items. It's a really cool thing. If you get into stuff like roadside attraction type places the way Lauren does, they're literally across the street from the Pioneer Settlement. I definitely recommend checking it out. Alright, I'll let you go this time. Peace, everybody.